Are we live? This is part
we're
2.
rolling.
Rat beef. Kendrick
We're back, baby.
versus Drake. This is episode 2. S1 E2.
Yeah, 2 of many.
So we're gonna get back into it. We were talking last time about of course everyone's talking about Kendrick
Just realized I don't want to be
and Drake.
smacking my gum on here. But once again, we got El Greco joining us at the Cave, HOTC, All Things Music. And, yeah, go on.
Look.
This morning at about 2 a.m., police were called to a shooting at the residence behind me here. When officers arrived, they located a male who was suffering from an apparent gunshot wound. That male was taken to hospital in serious condition. That person was working, apparently, as a security guard at the residence. He was standing outside of the gates in front of the residence when the shooting occurred.
Kind of where we left off, I guess we were discussing at the time. Also, we were talking about, was J. Cole right to bow out, take his peace and his peace of mind? And I think that kind of sort of answers the question, doesn't it?
I mean, honestly, yeah. I think it's funny, too, because if you went to Drake after everything that's happened and said, hey, bro, maybe you should have responded to that first song, he probably wouldn't have.
I don't know if it would have gone. You think it would have gone to just completely curb? I don't think he would have.
I don't know, dude. I don't know if in hindsight it really helped anything for Drake. If anything, it benefited Kendrick's career a lot more.
Oh, totally. That's one thing. One thing that we've learned just from the how many streams?
I mean, I was just looking. I think, Not Like Us or whatever. Not Like Us is at 176 million. This is just Spotify numbers, so
okay.
Double that.
Yeah.
You know, Like That's at almost 300 million. Euphoria 125 million. I think all the 5 beef songs, right, are in the top 20.
I mean, people
charting
are
right now,
covering it. People are rapping over the instrumental. They're making their own parodies of it.
I mean, that being said, Drake's doing well too. I mean, Push Ups is at 88 mil, Family Matters at 50, but they're not really touching Kendrick's numbers.
I mean, Kendrick Lamar needs to send Drake a bottle of dope champagne,
right?
I'd like to know what was Kendrick streaming before the beef.
I mean, it was good. I mean, he's always up there, but like, I think that's the discussion too, because Kendrick's never had like a club banger. He's never really had solidified himself in that, you know, like global space the same way Drake has.
So the whole conversation has become meta. The conversation itself is a thing to discuss. Everyone is talking about it.
Right.
The White House was using the "They Not Like Us" instrumental or something. It's just like we joked at the end of the last episode. I think we were like, "Are our parents talking about this, and why?" I mean, it's really interesting.
Yeah, I mean, media, news, the way news travels, what people grab hold of. Gobbling it up. And it's funny now, it's like the silliest stories will take off.
Right.
And it's like, whatever, and then what's real or not gets blurred. The truth factor doesn't really matter anymore. It's like, no one cares about the truth. They care about, like, is this engaging? Is this something that I can take hold of? And then all of a sudden it's blown up. We don't even know as the consumer what's really happening.
I find my Instagram is filled with it. I find myself watching other podcasts discussing it.
Yeah, for sure.
People talking about, I guess it's almost like, now it's like everybody wants to know everybody else's opinion.
Yeah.
Kendrick or Drake.
Yeah,
Kendrick or Drake. It's like, totally. It almost reminds me of Jennifer Aniston and what was Angelina Jolie when Brad Pitt cheated on Jennifer Aniston. Whose team are you, Kendrick or are you Drake? And it's like, it's fascinating.
Well, it's funny because I don't really care about that stuff, but now that it's in our world, now I'm like really into it. Like,
it's hard not to get sucked right in, right?
Yeah.
I mean, and then so now you have these. They've become think tanks. what does Drake represent if you are backing him?
Yeah.
And what does Kendrick represent when you're backing him? So last episode, the conversation we're having was a totally different conversation.
Well, it also is hard because we left that being like, yo, we like Drake's music.
Yeah,
which I still stand on, which is interesting.
Yeah, totally.
But it's also like, now that I've heard everyone, it's like the mob mentality. It's like, I can't stand for Drake. Drake is out. Like, you can't support dude anymore.
Drake
and it's just,
has become the manufactured version of hip hop, and Kendrick is hailed as this, like, what it really stands for,
yeah, totally.
hip hop, and it's harder for me to buy right the fuck into that.
Yeah, I mean, man, it's like, you know, the dust has settled now a little bit, and we're sitting with this music, and I think one of the arguments for Kendrick for a while has been like, okay, the shelf life of his meaning, the depth of his music, you know, I think you could judge a record by how long people are listening to it.
Sure.
And I think there's more merit with, like, when you're really saying something with substance and you're creating these, you know.
Totally. Well, we gave him those props last week.
Yeah.
I mean, he got, in my mind, there's no doubt, and we said this last time, there's no doubt that he is the MC of the two. He is the real writer. He is probably has his, you know, finger on the culture's pulse better. Okay? That's not even a debate.
Right.
So then, I don't know, I just think that it's interesting that if you chose Drake, like, track for track or whatever, not that Kendrick didn't win.
Yeah.
In essence, it's just it's like it's become a diss to the culture if you don't pick Kendrick, and I think that's kind of ridiculous.
Yeah, well, I think it extends beyond the music. You know, this has been the discussion too, like the brand thing,
right?
Because Drake didn't need those records, right? Like, they're not really doing anything long term for him. Whatever. If anything, he's looking at it like, man, now people are like, it seems like everyone's come out and being like, yeah, we never liked Drake. Like, everyone's like, this dude sucks. Right. Like, we don't want to support. Like, even Kanye and everyone's coming out and being like, we're ready for Drake to get out of here, bro.
So that is a mob mentality. But look, we were talking about the similarities between Drake and Kendrick and Jay-Z and Nas, and you know, we drew the parallels that I guess in that if you were to make one of them, Drake would be Jay-Z and Kendrick would be Nas, which is blasphemous in my old head mind to even say.
I don't think you can do the comparison though.
But it is an interesting comparison because Jay-Z was consistently, you know, dropping every summer and crushing it and like just on the radio, brush your shoulders off, you know, making us club bangers, making theme music, kind of like Drake did, and Nas is clearly the more like Bob Dylan, writery, true artist of the two, and I just think that, to your point though, it's interesting how the mob mentality can take over in these types of moments. Yeah. Because you start to feel like so you never were bobbing your head, you know, to a Drake joint. 2 months ago in the club, you weren't dancing with your girl. I don't want to hear that.
Yeah, well, it'll be interesting too because, you know, is he like canceled, or like is this something that in a month or two we're back? Like, is he still selling out? You know, he just went on this massive tour.
So like, I think the answer is
the PR thing is so important.
Totally.
As like, you got to look at it, and even with the battle, I feel like Drake was like still trying to be the good guy. You know, he threw some punches, but like not quite like what Kendrick was doing.
I remember back in the day, DJs at 102 Jams after Ether dropped. When Nas dropped Ether, it just the whole thing switched. People who have been lifelong Jay-Z fans are calling the radio station out like, "Oh, I want to hear my sexy baby playing Nas," and it's like, so we're gonna disc all of Jay-Z's discography, starting like in Reasonable Doubt up to date. And I just think that to answer your question, it's everyone's caught up in the moment a little bit too much, and I could see it for what it is.
Yeah.
Just let Drake drop I Need a One Dance
Yeah.
part 2.
Well,
and then we go back to normal. Will it go back to normal? I don't know if it'll go back to normal.
I don't know. I mean, Kendrick got one now with Not Like Us, which is like, this was interesting too, because, I DJ and am in that space a little bit. And Kendrick doesn't really get the spins like Drake at all. Right? Like, so now he kind of got one with Mustard on this song that people are actually getting down to. And that's a breakthrough. And I think that happened to Nas. I don't know which records.
No,
but
it did. Well, his Ether was the diss track.
Yeah.
But the album was Stillmatic. And the album was huge. And to the
like
same
getting spins
point,
in the club.
Totally. Oh, no, I mean, on the radio,
Yeah.
you hearing it bumping out of people's cars, and it was like, Nas is back.
Yeah.
But Nas was back because of the beef.
Right.
You know what I mean?
But
Nas was already the man. Not that Kendrick wasn't already the man. He was already the man. But I think the difference is, if we're going to compare the two, Kendrick is on.
Well,
like really mainstreamy now.
Yeah, well that's the thing, because when I break it down, also to step into my producer mind, the beat is what's carrying it. When we're comparing, sometimes it's like bar for bar, Kendrick slayed. But from a beat standpoint, like Drake shit always seems to hit. Like you can spin that in the club a little bit more. And now Kendrick's trying to step into that. Not like us. I mean, people are playing that joint.
I'm gonna get so much hate for this, and I don't care. This is gonna be my controversial.
Let's go. I'm down.
I don't care. I'm gonna make so many Gen Z people mad with this shit.
Yeah.
And you're call me an old head. I don't even care. Bars on Not Like Us equal fire. Yes. The Mortal Kombat videos of Kendrick, slicing Drake's arms off and stuff. If it were a battle, I get it. Yes. But the hook,
I'm not sold either.
I think it's whack.
Yeah, I'm not sold. I'm not.
And maybe it's on purpose. Maybe Kendrick is being so meta that it's like, I'm making fun of what's mainstream, so I'm going to be overly catchy to mock Drake. I hope that's the case. Otherwise, I just think the melody choice for the hook is...
Yeah. I mean, Family Matters is awesome. I mean, Drake delivered a bunch of different, drops, different tracks, different flows.
What was the last one? The 6-minute. The 6-minute Drake one.
Push-ups? No.
I don't know. I think it was Family Matters, though.
Family Matters. I think that's the long one. Yeah.
One of them was hot. I mean, one of the Drake disses I thought was pretty hot. And
But again, it's funny? I came back because last week I think we were talking about, like, not liking Euphoria, Meet the Grams, whatever. And I kind of... I kind of like those, actually.
Yeah, no. I like Euphoria more. I like Euphoria
now
more.
that I'm sitting with it.
No, I like Euphoria more than I did when it first dropped.
Yeah.
But I think for me, the problem with the track for track beef, which is we talked about this. It's a very 21st century thing. Like, like Nas and Jay-Z dissed him, and then I don't know if it was 8 months or a year. We didn't get the diss track back till a year later. Granted, time, drops was slower back in the day, or back in that day. But it's like he dissed you on Monday. The other rapper replied on Wednesday. The reply to the reply was Friday, and you can't even keep up. Yeah. So then you got to. So then you
got to let the water sit. I mean, it's a lot to digest so quickly for like your normal person.
It's a lot.
Even me, like, you know what I mean.
Even if you're really into hip hop, it's a lot to digest. There's a ton of bars.
Yeah.
But so if it's coming at you so fast, you're also digesting it quickly, and then it's like.
Well, that's why we need digestible stuff, right? Like, that's why he came back with that hate hook,
I think even on Drake's, even on Drake's diss tracks, he still is rapping the way that he always raps, which isn't. I mean, if you're gonna on the microphone, I'm still an MC. I mean, pound for pound, you don't want to beef with Kendrick. With Kendrick's pen, Drake's pen doesn't want. He's out of his weight class versus Kendrick's pen.
Yeah, totally.
So we always knew that. So then if you know that though, here's what I'm saying. If we know Kendrick's pen is a samurai sword, and Drake's is a knife,
why is he trying to fight
a kitchen knife?
Yeah.
But also, my point is this, to defend all these Kendrick fans. Then the instrumental choice has to be fire. You're going against Drake.
Right.
You know what I mean? So everybody always knows Drake's going to bring the best producers and maybe a ghostwriter. Okay? So, well, Kendrick, give me a old school Dre sounding diss track. And this is a rap beef. This isn't one of those like,
but he
I
can,
went
dude.
to the crates and I was leafing through old LP
Samples and
vinyls and shit.
Yeah,
like,
yeah.
no, save that shit for when you and J. Cole get cool.
Well, that's
and
what they're
you
saying.
Do like a hip hoppy joint together. This is not the time, and that's what I said. Maybe it's too mainstream.
No,
This is the whole world is listening to it now, and it's like the moment was so big. These are the beats you chose. I'm still mad about it. That's all.
Yeah, no, but I'm hearing the other side of the argument, which is like, you know, Not Like Us, DJ Mustard, boom, he delivered on that joint. Like that one's
People
hard.
love it.
Yeah, but also Kendrick stayed true to himself. He's not. They're both staying true to themselves in their own way, in their own swagger, in their own delivery. But it was cool to see Kendrick come out because he tends to be a little bit more about dealing with your emotions, the morale, you know, being like, for him to come out and just spit bars and be, you know, he was swinging his sword.
Right.
And you like to see that.
Right.
And then it makes you think, well,
They want
why
blood.
did
The people want blood?
Yeah, we want blood, but also like what was Drake thinking, like challenging Kendrick in that
Right.
sense? It's like, was there like initiative? Hey bro, like
No, the way the way that it went down, the way that the whole thing played out linearly, I don't think that he chose to diss Kendrick. He had to defend himself. And I also give him kind of grown man
he didn't
props.
have to though.
He
He
didn't.
could have pulled a J. Cole.
You're not wrong.
You
He
know?
didn't have to. I think the fact that he did in my book, he gets props for that.
Right.
As a grown ass man,
Yeah.
defending his brand. He's like, well, if you're gonna come for me and I'm in hip hop and you're gonna start dissing me, I'm not gonna just not go to my booth, my mansion. How many studios are in that?
How many
thing?
mansions he got?
I mean, he's got plenty of places to record dope tracks.
Yeah.
So the point is, so then if he just walked away, it's like, y'all said all this big three shit. J. Cole already dissed him hard and bowed out.
Yeah.
Drake was like, I don't know. There's some respect in that too. Fuck that. I'm not gonna just.
Yeah.
I'm not gonna not respond.
But also you don't want to be on the defense, right?
Right.
Like as soon as you're on the defense, you're setting it up, and then that, you know, I feel like Kendrick was on the offense, right?
Right.
For the most part,
Totally.
and then it put Drake in this spot where he's like trying to defend that he's not a pedophile and all this stuff that like.
No, the girl came out and said, yes, she was 17 years old or whatever. She said he pulled me up on stage.
Yeah.
It was not. I don't know. I didn't fact check it all the way down.
Right.
But some woman came out being like, no, there was nothing weird about it.
I believe that. I also am like, because you know, also Kendrick had this whole story about
Who knows what?
Drake having a daughter that he doesn't even have, right? Like,
right.
so it's like if you're gonna skew the truth, then we're playing a weird game there that I don't really.
Well,
especially with media now, we already talked about that.
Let's touch on this right quick. If you take the beef, if you take the fact that we know that we got to the beef away, right? And I think I touched on this a little bit last time. The Metro Boomin joint with Future on it,
Yeah,
in
Fire.
my mind,
it's the best one.
if it's hot.
Yeah, that's a great joint.
And Kendrick's verse on it is hot. It all matches, like it all came together like a dope movie that you love.
Yeah.
Well, if you just listen to Euphoria, it's my second place.
Mm-hmm.
And then if you just listen to Not Like Us, it's my third. Sorry, y'all.
That's cool.
But so you take those three tracks, though, they are now Kendrick's most popular tracks. I mean, I like other Kendrick songs in his own discography better. But now, dude, you get what I mean by that?
No doubt.
Take the beef away and just listen to the music.
Right.
It's like just listen to even the Drake joints. It's like they're not by any means either of these two artists' hottest tracks,
No.
but they are the most popular ones.
Right.
So
I mean, I remember
hip hop
when-
beef. Thank you, hip hop beef, for making us millionaires. Maybe we're all getting played on the low. Drake was like, "I'm about to hook you up."
Yeah.
because we are boys.
I mean, there's a part of my brain when I'm like hearing these tracks is like trying to figure out like, do I like this? Like, do I get it? Right? We're sucked into this, but I keep listening, right? And that's the cool thing is like I'm listening almost in this different way, and
The
that's
beef,
why
the beef made you listen to the song.
Yeah.
100 times.
100 times.
And you're
right?
like studying there. You're like,
Yeah.
oh,
Where's my book?
oh, did you hear that? Did you catch that bar? And it's like, why are we doing this?
And then you listen to the old discography, and there's like little bars in there too, where he's like calling out Drake for working with Cole, or he's talking about, hey man, you've been wanting to, Drake's like, yeah, you've been trying to.
Is it just genius marketing gimmick? I was talking a little bit of junk about J. Cole on the first episode because I was like, because he's our boy. Of the three, he's still my favorite artist by far, by a long shot. I would pick J. Cole over Drake and Kendrick every day of the week. And I was kind of like Big Brother mad that he like apologized at Dreamville so fast. I heard since then that Drake was at Dreamville. Did you hear this?
I
Drake
feel
and
like
his
I
whole
might have
camp
heard
was
that.
at Dreamville.
Did he perform?
No, he peaced out.
What was he doing? Just hanging out?
I think he was hanging out backstage with his entourage, and then J. Cole started apologizing, or he saw what direction it was in, and then they were like, fuck that, I'm leaving.
Wow.
Isn't that fascinating?
J. Cole, man, that's...
No, but I was just saying that, like, I gotta apologize to my initial, like, to speak to what I was saying.
Yeah.
I mean, somebody shot Drake's bodyguard. So
right.
So that totally changes J. Cole dropping out, because I was like, no one's gonna get hurt.
Yeah, I know.
I was wrong.
Which is crazy.
It's crazy.
I kind of love it though, but it's like, I hope the dude's okay. And here's the other thing.
I don't want anybody to get
He's
hurt.
in Toronto, bro. That's like a funny part of this too. It's like the whole East Coast, West Coast, whatever.
I just
like dudes in Toronto getting shot up.
It's a psychological game on all of us to I think maybe the underlying point is that if you agitate people's emotions on such a large scale, then even when it's just for fun and we think it's just music and hip hop and we all wanted blood, it stops being funny when somebody actually gets hurt. And I think when you involve that many people, right?
Yeah.
And we're all talking about it, somebody somewhere with a gun must have felt some kind of way and was like, I'm gonna go handle this.
It's crazy.
It's nuts.
Yeah.
I don't think it should have. I don't think it should have come to that. And I don't know. I guess it. Speaks, it speaks to J. Cole knowing the industry better than even us, because it's at that level. You've known and you've heard and you've probably seen so much of it that it's like it's not even worth it. It's not even worth it for my character. Yeah, totally. My character J. Cole for me to defend. It's not worth it.
Yeah, the foresight too to be like, yo, I'm established, I'm respected. I don't want to play with that, because when people are coming at your reputation and you're on the defense, it's not a good look.
Yeah.
And you don't need that to your career. It's not elevating you. So
it does prove like it's still negative energy, maybe, right?
I think there's some real bad blood, but I also think it was overplayed, like you said, almost in this like movie type, where they're trying to create this narrative around it, and then this happens.
You know what? To our point, though, it still should be like a boxing match. Like, it's these two guys don't hate each other. It's not like two real human beings fist fighting. This is a sport. We got gloves on. It's an event.
Yeah.
We paid money to see this.
Yeah.
There's a level of entertainment where it should have been okay for two MCs to get on a microphone and diss each other track for track the way that it played out without anybody getting hurt. So it does suck that dude got shot. I mean, even if he was the only that's the only like violent thing that happened, I still think it's too much.
Yeah, we got to hope that's all that happens.
Yeah. J. Cole did come on, and he's been on other people's podcasts explaining himself more thoroughly.
Yeah.
And you hear him talk about how, like, he was like, in real life, these two dudes, both of them, I have mad respect for them. These guys get it. Like, they get what it's like to try and live this life, be J. Cole, and still be yourself as a human being. You know what I mean? So he's like, I don't want to beef with them. Because give it 5 years, he's like, they're going to be the only two people that I can call up and be like, hey, this is what I'm going through. You can't, he couldn't call a civilian and ask them, do you know what it's like to be J. Cole? You know what I mean?
It's like if you're a professional, how many people are even in the realm, right?
Well, even understand.
And these
where
are the
you come
top.
from.
These are the top dogs. I mean, there's no question about it in the hip hop space, and it's good to see.
It's not the big three; it's Big Me.
Yeah, well, it's good to see the resurgence of hip hop getting the streams, like people wanting to hear bars, because there was a minute there where it was dipping off. Like country is the most popular music, right?
No, it's good. I'll say this: Kendrick winning the battle is good for real hip hop, and we had been saying it 5 years ago when we were sick of.
Yeah.
Remember, we were sick of auto tuning, not just auto tune. We were sick of just like
still are.
it was the era of Lils. Lil Xan, Lil Pump, Lil Mumble. It was mumble rap.
Little baby.
It got mumble. It got mumbly for a minute, and like the younger generation was telling us, hey, we don't care if these dudes are nice. They're us. It was like a SoundCloud. It wasn't just a SoundCloud. Like rappers.
Yeah.
Rappers were climbing to superstardom really quickly just because the instrumental was hot. And the rest of us are like, this sucks.
And also, like, it's not grounded in the heritage. Like,
right.
It's cool as a lover of music when you see people who, like, understand the GOATs, the greats, study them, versus, young rappers, young artists be coming through here and they don't even know.
Nas called it carrying on tradition.
Yeah, so there's the oral tradition of...
If you stand on the MCs that came before you, like, hey, these guys inspired me. If you want to be a good rapper, you should have a lot of really good rappers that are your favorite rappers.
Right.
The genre started to suffer when your favorite rappers aren't that good.
I mean, I think just things move so quickly now.
Yeah.
That we forget, the 90s or early 2000s.
No, you know what happened?
Like
a lot of the mumble rap was because I think this is an interesting conversation. This could be for another podcast.
Uh-huh.
But it was like the following of Lil Wayne. Not because I got more respect for him now than I did in 2009.
I mean, he's the best.
But I mean, what we couldn't foresee even in the 2000s was, if you flash forward 10, 20 years, what is hip hop going to look like? There are so many subgenres now that it's like, you take one great from the 90s, and then that's a whole his followers there's a whole subgenre.
Yeah, well, that's what I tell like young artists too. Like if you have a lane or a niche, you're better than trying to go for the top, because everyone is trying to rap, right? So it's like I need to see something beyond that.
I think Nicki Minaj was quoted saying, though, like, for her era, the rappers that came before, like, let's just say, where Nicki was before she blew up, which is, she's been in the game for a long time now.
Yeah.
She was saying that all the people that were on before her, a lot of them were mainstream the best because they were the best.
Yeah.
They were all trying to be the best. And now that the whole landscape has changed, you don't have to be the best to necessarily have millions of streams. You just have to have your lane.
Well, you got to be the best at being you. You got to be the best at finding where your voice works, where what producer I can work with, or what people are going to gravitate towards my music and all that stuff. And now more than ever, though, you have to have that brand and reputation, which brings us back, towards that marketing, the whole ploy to get people to listen to your music.
Right.
And there's a study there, which is fascinating, like the way news travels, the way we experience music intertwined with, I guess, what we're seeing, what's happening culturally, what people are putting in our ears. Next thing we know, we're listening to Taylor Swift or whatever, even though I don't like the music, just because I'm like, this is relevant.
It is like there'll be a documentary about somebody that gets popular. Even if it's just the art, and then people start talking about the documentary, and then you talking about the artist, and all of a sudden you're listening to their last few albums, and then you might not have even necessarily
known you liked it
fan before.
Yeah.
Like that's a perfect example is, you might not even be big Taylor Swiftie. It's not like she needs new fans, but something relevant might happen in the news, like you're saying, and all of a sudden,
and then your appreciation changes, or
right,
you're like, "Ooh, I actually like this artist because the mob likes it or whatever,"
yeah,
and it's hard to go out and be like, "Yeah, I don't really dig that." I think it's important too that we still have these opinions on, you know, what moves us as the individual. Like, you know, there's a lot of people that are going to shows just because their friends are going or whatever, which is great.
Yeah.
But it's cool to be like, yeah, this is what I like, this is what I don't like, and having opinions. I mean, I'm open-minded about all kinds of music, but it is.
What do you think the beef did for smaller, like up-and-coming musicians? Do you think it helped or hurt?
I think it hurt. I think there's conversation happening. You know,
like for, you know, what a lot of our compadre local HOTC, like, do you think that the beef is helping, like, more lower level trying to get on aspiring rappers and people in the culture? Or do you think that it, like, took away from it?
Well, I think the attention's definitely going to the top.
Yeah.
You know, and then that kind of is like, well, that breeds the other thing, which is like, we kind of need Drake, right?
Right.
Because Drake, he's making hip hop mainstream.
Right.
He's bringing other artists on tour with him.
Yeah.
He's, you know, kind of become this figure.
Right.
That's leading the way to, like, keep the music pop, even though we don't all like it in the space. Without, you know, Kendrick needs a Drake, right? Like, you kind of need this, like, parallel.
I think like the demonizing, there has been a post-beef demonizing of Drake that is unfair. And
yeah, dudes, nobody likes.
Well, no, that's not true. Like, I saw Stephen A. They asked Stephen A.
Yeah.
Who, you know, he's like sports Mr. ESPN. He does basketball, NFL, you know.
I know.
They asked dude how he feels about it, and he was like, I got to go with Drake because Drake's still standing at the end of so many of these.
He's taking some hits, bro.
This is not the first time people have been coming for Drake.
Dude.
And he's still, usually he makes it through still standing. And I think this time we're really going to find out, though. Is he going to be still standing?
I give him props, man.
6 months from now?
Yeah.
Christmas 24, do you think it's going to, like you said, is it going to hurt his career or help it?
Well, I think...
Or is this irrelevant for him because he's so big?
No, I mean, it's definitely relevant. When you look, you know, this is a pivotal time in both their careers. Right. And in hip-hop. Like, it's revitalizing a lot of things. So I think we're going to look back and be like...
It was fun.
So it was fun. This was a crazy time. And I think...
The exception of the security guard who got shot.
Yeah. But the dust is settling. It's going to continue to settle, and we should come back and look at it. But you definitely raise an interesting question about, like, younger artists and how this impacts them.
I don't know. It's meta. It's so meta. Like I said, that's the nature of this episode for us, what we're talking about. Yeah. It has become the Drake Kendrick beef. What I didn't foresee is that it was going to become its own conversation. That people that don't know anything about the culture, people that don't care about hip hop, are now Kendrick Lamar and Drake, as where before, like, why are you know, old baby boomers discussing Kendrick Lamar, as where 6 months ago they definitely didn't know who he was.
Which, by the way, like, my parents did not like hip hop growing up. Like, you think about early 2000s.
Same here.
Like, you know what I mean?
Yeah,
like,
I mean, totally different world.
Yeah, but like Kanye's coming up and they're like, what is this? You know?
Yeah.
Like, this is gonna ruin America.
Totally.
Like, it's just cool because it is America.
It is America.
You know?
Yeah, totally. And I just think that, like, I mean, just to go back to my, like, the post demonizing of Drake, I think some of that is gonna settle and go away. It's just,
I don't think he's done. He's not done.
No, it's just it's become such a meta conversation, like we were saying, that it's gotten to the point where, like, these have become like two different ideologies. They're like two different think tanks.
It's political. It's like social political in this, like.
It's like are you a Republican or a Democrat? Yeah. Are you a Drake fan or are you?
Yeah,
are you
I don't.
What a weird thing to say.
Yo, this dude likes Drake. Like, get out of the studio, bro.
Bobby Sasquatch, 6 months ago or a year ago, if I asked you, do you think that a Kendrick Lamar Drake beef was going to divide our nation in a conversation, you'd be like, go, what?
Yeah.
Go away.
I will give our community, though, props. in the music space for having the conversation, and we're not throwing hands at each other. Like this needs to be the way we talk about politics.
Because are we discussing something deeper than just who's your favorite artist? It turned into that.
Yeah, but it's not like, oh, you like Kendrick, blah blah blah, I'm trying to fight. You know, it's like let's look along the way at different topics, different, you know, songs, different targets, and that's the conversation that I want to see more of, where it's like we can get along and come together in the beef. Like the beef is bringing the community together. Be like, yo, we want more of these real rap records, right. Or hey, let's appreciate these. We still gotta have these club bangers too.
Yeah, it's
like,
a part of it has become, whether we like it or not, a part of all of our lives.
What's that?
Like mainstream club bangers. Drake like hits. Whether
I like hits.
Whether Drake like hits is a part of American culture, whether you like it or not.
Right.
You know what I mean?
And they come in all forms, which is cool.
I mean,
different tempos.
You'd be hard pressed in 2024 to not go to or let's just say 2023 before the beef, especially. Not that it matters, but to go to a wedding reception and probably more than likely dance to a clean, if it even needs to be clean, a Drake song.
Right, like I just DJ'd an event, right? And it's like we can't just listen to Earth, Wind, and Fire, and
right. It's
like,
not gonna be like
you can't just do Motown all night. Like people want rap.
No,
you know, your Little John.
You play the Macarena for everybody.
Yeah.
Like,
I mean, I'm not sure you're playing Drake. Yeah.
We don't have
the
to
chicken dance,
the electric slide, right? But I mean, like, I don't know.
I mean, dude, I played Soldier Boy and it still goes crazy.
See, so that's what an interesting thing. Would you hail Soldier Boy as one of the best?
Well, he's the first to do it, right?
Yeah, it's just like it's interesting. It's an interesting conversation, but I don't know. The only other thing that I wanted to discuss before we got out of here was we forgot there were some more relevant beefs like within the past. I mean, I went straight to Jay-Z and Nas.
Yeah,
but. What about 50 Cent and Ja Rule?
Yeah.
What about Eminem and MGK?
Yeah.
Like what about like there's been some other really big mainstream beefs that we just forgot to mention.
Right. The thing with the 50, like people love 50 Cent.
Yeah.
Even though he had these hits.
Right.
Like because he was hard, because he like got
people
in
love
because
Ja
he came
Rule
from
50 Cent.
I think it's that Drake like comes doesn't he come from the suburbs or something?
Well, yeah, he's not
hard like that. He's not tough like.
No, I mean like I don't think he comes from poverty.
Right.
Which is a part of the culture. I mean, obviously.
Well, it's part of the I don't know if there's some animosity there, but it is an interesting discussion. It's like,
yeah, is Drake more privileged than Kendrick? I guess. I mean, absolutely.
Yeah. And that's, I think, a big conversation here too, in the respect that he's getting versus Kendrick, because dude had to fight his way up or whatever.
Yeah, that's part of I think that's part of the conversation.
So it's not just the artistry. It's like, look at this dude, like,
right,
I can't get down with this. He's not a part of us.
I saw this podcast where was probably like a 30-year-old African American gentleman discussing it culturally, like, okay, Kendrick speaks to our culture. Kendrick is discussing things that, like, you know, represent us, come from us. You know what I mean? And so if you think Kendrick's corny, then it's like, oh, and you like this caricature of the culture better, you know, sorry, you're wrong. What does that say about you? But then I think, see, again, what's happened is you're giving the representation in this rap beef all to Kendrick. There are plenty of other hip hop artists that came before him and that will come after Kendrick that also
are relevant,
represent
the
culture, and
even more so than Kendrick.
Yeah, so
it's
it's interesting that the conversation has become, what do you mean? What do you mean you don't like Kendrick Lamar?
Yeah,
you know what I mean.
You're right.
Yeah. What are you saying? Are you saying you don't?
I think there's still people who are like, you know, not fully bought into that he's the guy or he has to be the guy.
Right.
But I think that there's an interesting discussion about why we can't respect Drake because he didn't come from the streets or poverty or whatever, and just look at also the fact that he's made a bunch of amazing records too.
Yeah, I was telling you like what Stephen A said. So regardless of where you come from or what you know, what your socioeconomic background is. I mean,
You got to respect greatness.
it's like that's why we love comparing. Don't we love comparing hip hop to sports?
Right.
I mean, think about like Jay-Z talks about Jay-Z is Jay-Z in his own music, in his own lyrics. He
The
talks
amount of
about,
people that hate LeBron, right? Like,
see,
yeah.
okay, sure, hate LeBron, but how many points does he put up?
And he's 40. How old is he?
Yeah, that's.
I think him and Drake are like the same age. No?
Yeah, that's. I mean, so it's like, okay, look at the scoreboard.
Scoreboard.
Talk shit about all my trophies. What about my rings? What about? You know what I mean? So that I think the analogy there is a good one because yeah, you don't have to like either of their music.
Yeah.
It still becomes a matter of opinion at the end of the day. But then again, some of them have trophies.
Right.
You don't have to like Tom Brady, but that is not going to change the number of rings on his fingers.
People like to hate, which
Totally.
is funny too, because that's what's funny too. Because Kendrick's like, yo, he's like, I'm
love
love, not hate, but fuck you, like I hate you. You know what I mean? Like completely, like
No, that's an interesting
you're
point.
like you're talking about love, but like love and hate, you know, there's something there.
So wait,
And people love to hate though. It's
you
interesting.
just brought up an interesting. This is part for part 3. There won't be a part 2.
I know we gotta wrap up.
But
But yeah,
no, but you just if Kendrick is wearing the thorn of crowns,
Yeah, the crown.
the you know which is you know it's imagery for Jesus. But the point is, if you're being positive, the biggest thing that happened in your career is centered around negative beef.
Yeah, crazy.
So there's a hypocrisy there.
But it's playing into the human psychology. It's playing in the human experience, which is like
Right.
hate. We all like to people like to blame someone, be mad at someone.
The Romans want to go to the Colosseum and see
we love it,
gladiators.
dude. We love it. We want more of it.
Blood.
You know, it's
the
like
people want blood.
Yeah.
And the people are fickle, dude.
Fickle.
So that's maybe the point of this.
switch sides real quick.
You've been listening to Drake
Yeah.
your whole life.
Right.
But today
I
you're
mean,
like, fuck Drake.
We had to follow
I
up
love
last.
Kendrick.
We had to follow up last week because we were like Team Drake.
We did. We
were like, we can't end like that. We can't go out like that.
No, it's become its own thing, which is fascinating. And good for hip hop. Good for hip hop.
Yeah.
I think what we've all learned, especially from this beef, is that the lines between real life and the art are so blurred, and they go back and forth so quickly.
Yeah.
That J. Cole was right.
Right.
Maybe
Yeah.
he was right.
And
He was
people
like,
have different standards and ideologies for giving, you know,
right. Yes,
given on the person, on the circumstance.
that's a good point.
I wish there was more like objective.
That's a good point.
Um,
Everybody has different opinions on what is acceptable.
you give
at
this
any
person a
of-
break,
right.
but this person is like under a spotlight,
Right.
and that's how it is.
All right, dude. Well,
Yeah,
until next time.
absolutely. Thank you all for tuning in.